This video contains content sponsored by John Wilson Blades and MK Blades. Opinions discussed in this video do not reflect the views of John Wilson or MK.
Hello and welcome to This and That. I'm Dave Leese and I'm thrilled to welcome Jonathan Beyer, who is now back in Germany on your world tour.
Yeah, gute Nacht. It's like almost midnight here.
Ooh, look at your commitment for skating. You're very Peter Murray.
Yeah, okay.
Well, we have a lot to discuss today, and we don't have like a normal event, but I think that we should convene because a lot has happened. You know,
a lot to catch up on. Yeah.
You know, last week marked the 100 days out until Pyeongchang, so we can officially start hashtagging Road to Pyeongchang. And Gracie Gold was to appear on the Today Show, which did happen, and she also announced a new coaching situation that was one of the worst kept secrets because of someone's little social media at the Arctic Edge who was kind of pushing that announcement forward. But Gracie Gold was upstaged in terms of social media-ness by Joshua Ferris and his comeback.
I thought you meant like on the Today Show, and I was like, who was it? No, in the skating world, I absolutely agree with you.
Yes. I mean, everyone thought that Gracie's news would be just, Derek Bailey would be flooding, the TSL Facebook with comments, but I really was bored by that announcement when we found out that Joshua Ferris was coming back, and we saw Damon Allen post a quad toe by Joshua Ferris with the hand down. Little did we know that by the end of the weekend, Joshua Ferris would be quad all over.
Quad, and then another quad toe was just posted with no hand down.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, Jonathan, you're one of his big-time fans. And how excited were you on, what is the scale of excitement?
Well, at first I had to, really process. I was like, is this fake news? I was like, is this just like people getting hyped up? And we know the danger of getting too excited by things that are happening on Instagram and skating. But then came the quad sow. And then came another quad toe. And then came his interview where he was like, no, I'm coming back and it's not about the Olympics. And half of me is like excited beyond belief because he has always been my favorite. Even at that Four Continents in 2014, he saved the event for me. He didn't even medal, but the gravitas of that Schindler's List and that tango flamenco-y Latin kind of short program that was so brilliant. I don't know if my heart can take it though. It's going to be a really scary season for me because I hate being so invested in one skier. Does that make sense? Right now with the American men, I enjoy what they do, and they're all kind of may the best one win. If it's Josh, or if it's Jason, or if it's Adam, it's fun to see who does a great program, who ended up silver, who ended up bronze at that one Grand Prix event. This one, no, it has to be Josh. I want him to win all the things. So it's going to become a very stressful fan situation for me next season, when I was hoping I could just sit back and enjoy. But no.
The interesting thing about his comeback for me is that he looks, first of all, he's never landed those quads like that on video that we have seen. They always looked a little bit lower in competition, he was a little bit nervous going in and kind of held back a bit. They look to be landed better than anything we saw from him do in competition previously. We don't know what he did in the rink. He wasn't a very Instagram. His friends can't even get him to text back. So the fact that it's his coach that's really promoting him on Instagram and building this buzz, and kudos to Damon Allen for that. I think he looks to be in better shape than ever. I mean, he looks very fit in the picture.
Yeah, he looks different. Yeah.
Well, so there were always rumors that Josh didn't like training so much before, but I was talking to different skaters that have skated with him, and they said, he may really appreciate skating more now that it's taken away from him, and that this all happened with the concussions, and then coming back, having coached, he made me a little bit more coachable and a little bit more invested into the training after seeing it from the other side.
Yeah, I agree. Mm-hmm. And I have to say, Dave, what an appropriate shirt.
Thank you, Jonathan. I was wearing my favorite color, but then I thought, this is what Joshua Ferris seems to be practicing in, so we have to be channeling the good vibes. Because
WWJ. Yeah, okay.
Well, because I was thinking, Joshua Ferris's comeback, all of this excitement, 4 continents going on, Vincent heading off to his competitions, Torgashev, preparing. What does this do to Adam Rapon? Where does this put him in his headspace? He had a broken foot. This has to motivate him, and it could be seen as a bad thing and also a good thing. Not that he needed more motivation, but the men can't hold back in the U.S. next season if they all stay healthy.
Jason doesn't have the trump card on that, so those sort of skating skills anymore. I mean, he obviously does, but like Josh can match him, in my opinion. He's a real threat to these guys. And now with the 2 quads, I was like, because to me, I think like it goes without saying, a beautiful program will follow. Mm-hmm. I'm not worried. That I know something inspirational with Gorgeous Line and all of this emotion will come out. It's the jumps that have me excited. Now I'm intrigued how the USFS will move forward with how they're setting up the Grand Prix for next season. I'm intrigued to see how they follow this and how they play this.
They already mentioned Skate America for him. You have to think that they're going to try to push to get him in events. Interesting. Skate America is later next year, so if they try to get him an earlier invitation, it can wind up working out that he might get a second spot, as opposed to Mariah Bell, who was at risk of making the Grand Prix final, and she found herself not getting a second invitation.
Yeah, exactly. Easy to invite the lower-level skaters, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And there is some gamesmanship amongst federations that goes along with that. It's not all dandy and roses going on. Interesting just to think about the U.S. men. I got the sense that he would come back when we first heard that he was playing around on the ice, and Tom Z in his blog said that he did a triple axel. It was in Tom Z's blog about, is a quad axel possible? And I said, who cares? But at the end of it, I saw Joshua Ferris is doing a triple axel, and I thought, interesting. And then we find out his comeback.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So will Tom try to be a jump advisor or something into that situation? Look, if Tom wants to offer some jump help and help Joshua Ferris to the top of the podium, I'm all for it. He's definitely got an interesting look. I think it now is the big question of, will the U.S. men secure 3 spots? Why can't we send him to Worlds as one of our men, Jonathan? I mean, he looks ready. Where was he in a petition about a couple weeks ago?
We took out like an abacus though after that national show, and we think we might be okay. We might be okay. We're cautiously optimistic, because actually it may be one of those things where Jason is protecting his own spot. Mm-hmm. Or something. But someone this time next year is going to be devastated.
Someone will be devastated, but I think that's the good part about competition, is that it will force them to be contenders. And don't we wish that we had someone in the ladies to kind of push them all a little bit more than they're currently being?
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think Sasha will be coming back next season. What did you think of the ladies?
I've just started training in Canton, Michigan with Marina and Oleg, which is super exciting. I've known Oleg for a long time, and Marina Zueva choreographed my 2014 Olympic free skates. And I'm really excited to be training there with Maya and Alex Shibutani, which are great friends of mine, and Patrick Chan. I think it's going to be super amazing.
Zueva will be coaching Gracie Gold, and Oleg Epstein will be kind of the technical advisor. And apparently Patrick Chan has really enjoyed working with him. And Patrick's jumps do look some of the best than they ever have in a long time. So, I mean, could this be the right move for Gracie?
Well, I hope it is. I almost wish she'd go silent for a little bit, because I'm tired of reading the optimistic articles. I understand that she needs to stay positive and all this sort of stuff, but like, enough, because you would have thought every time she had just figured it out and everything's going to be fine now. And you read these articles about her going to Marina and Oleg, and you're like, oh, okay, she's got it figured out now. But again, that's how every article is made to read for her. What I liked in the one article is that Marina said that when she came to her, Marina was like, I don't even have to choreograph if you don't want me to. You can still choreograph with whomever you want. And I was kind of like, don't we feel like Marina should still do the choreography for her?
Marina's still going to choreograph for her. Jonathan, that's the sales technique of indifference. Being like, well, I don't need to choreograph for you. And then you're like, you don't want to choreograph for me? Like, what? Like, I'm not good enough? I think that this could be good for Gracie, because I think one of the things is that I was thinking about the women, and we're going to go into the Russian juniors, is that there's no real female skater that has skating skills that are overwhelming and has the jumps to match. Carolina has wonderful skating skills. We haven't seen them quite as good this season. She's been focusing on the jumps, but she doesn't have the technical arsenal that Gracie could potentially deliver. Gracie needs a leg up. She has good, not great skating skills. I think that this could be a really positive change. Marina's very good at handling people mentally for the most part to delivering, especially with her ice dancers, and she's certainly doing this now. And I think it's telling that all of the ice dancers did choose to go with Marina when she and Igor split. She's known for kind of protecting her athletes and getting them into this space. So I'm very curious how this will go. I don't think that Marina is going to put her reputation on the line for someone she thinks is over and done with.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, everyone still remembers that like screechy Gershwin program that she did for Gracie, but to be fair, the program itself wasn't offensive. It was just the stratospheric violin music that over an arena speaker was not a good match. But she did the long, right? Her Olympic long was also, and it worked for her at the time. And but when you go back and you look at those programs, like, man, were those jumps different back then?
They were.
I like to remind myself, and I was like, whoa, those have changed.
She was also different physically back then. She was far more muscular, doing that off-ice training that Alex did. In the interview, she said that she kind of wasn't running, was doing the elliptical. You know what that means? Right. She wasn't running, period. She, was skating later, and apparently, was very emotional in training, wasn't always getting the assignments done, et cetera, et cetera, and everything kind of ballooned from there. So I think a change in this, what did you say, change is as good as a rest. So I think that this will definitely...
It really is. And also enough with, I want her to just stop giving interviews because I'm tired of the revisionist history. We kind of touched on it in the national show, but like when where to begin? Like the thing is, the more she keeps saying how this season went or how last season was going and everyone expected it to go, you're going to start to believe that. But Gracie, at the end of the day, like, you bombed 4 continents. Do you know what I mean? She was 9th in the short program at 4 continents. And so suddenly being 1st and then 6th in the long at Worlds and then 4th overall was kind of a good finish for her at Worlds that year. You know what I mean?
I noticed a little... when I asked her at Nationals in 2016, I asked her, and Ashley, what they were both going to do to address their short program issues and had they discussed that with their coaches going forward. And Ashley said she was getting a new dress because the dress that she had been horrible, luck to that point. And then Gracie kind of took offense and said that, well, she had done good short programs. She just had a double flip or a single Lutz. And thinking that's not a good program, and her old choreographer, was upset about that, and sometimes it seems like she has a hard time just owning it or whatever the issue is, just like admitting it, perhaps, because it just seems strange. Because in the interview she did with ESPNW, she said that last year she felt like she couldn't miss a jump, and I was thinking, what about Japan Open?
Where she was 6.
Yeah, what about Grand Prix final? What about 4 continents?
The continents where you were 9th in the short. And even, in 2015, she was 2nd in that long program at Worlds, but she was 8th in the short. Like, so 8th and 2nd, and now you were 1st and 6th, you're doing a little better. Like, let's not pretend that you were always this consistent person who had like a whack season. Yeah. You know what I mean? But I'm glad she took the change, because actually in the beginning, even when we saw that Phantom program, we were like, uh-oh, something was not right from the get-go almost. Yeah. So the short program fooled us, that Olympic short program, because it was exquisite, and she had the magic of her old jumps in addition to like this glam new look, but then it just started to fizzle out pretty quickly. So I hope it's rekindled. Now, I don't know what Oleg was really doing for her. She said edge work.
I think edge work could be good. I mean, they will bring Alex into the equation, and some people have said that they thought that she should go back to Alex, but there's obviously a reason why she left Alex before. Many people have left Alex. He's brilliant jump technique, I think, for every day. Obviously, that wasn't working, and there was a reason she left. And I think to keep him in the fold is good. But, there are still problems there. And I think that that's something in skating that people do know about. So that's something...
You said Marina for her. That was one of you thought that was going to be one of the right ideas, right?
Yeah, I thought that she needed a woman. I thought someone that would keep her off of social media that definitely was strong enough to do that. I thought maybe someone like Christy Ness if you wanted to go jump. But I think that this is a good situation if they could bring in someone. Look, she may have a jump problem here or there, then have to go visit Alex, then come back. But I think having Marina at the helm will be a really positive thing for her. She's also towards the end stage of her career. She doesn't need to know how to do a triple Lutz as much as having someone be like, you moved your arm. And, it's tweaking. It's not, someone's not teaching her how to do this. So I think that's interesting. But do you think that this is the end of the announcements? I mean, her moving coaches, I think that there will be coaching changes, but the comebacks, someone always comes back. Olympic season, there's always a comeback. Evan Lysacek. I just think that someone said to me that Meryl and Charlie always sound so fake whenever they say that they're just, taking a time and they'll decide after the season whether they'll come back. But then someone who did shows with them said it sounded a little bit different. And I've been watching, and Charlie does look to be in much better shape than he has over the last couple of years. Will they surprise us with a comeback announcement? They're scheduled to be on the Today Show on February 22nd, which is my birthday. And that nothing excites me more than a comeback. I don't necessarily know if they could win. It would be interesting. What do you think?
Well, if I were making my Olympic comeback, I would have done it like Scott and Tessa and done it this season to work out some stuff. Do you know what I mean? Like, although I guess having said that, Tessa and Scott really have almost put it together in a season and would have been fine, I guess. But I feel like Meryl and Charlie might have to work a little harder at it.
So have you ever seen the Tessa and Scott show? I know that you don't like reality shows, but did you ever watch that?
We watched the whole thing. We recapped it.
Oh.
We recapped it. Hey, jeez Louise.
Well,
and you were like, can you believe Michael shot in that photo? And I was like, it was fake. Yeah, okay.
I don't know. I showed Michael Shanley that show, and he was like, that Meryl Davis, she got under Tessa Virtue's skin. She got inside her head. And he's like, look at her smiling there as she walks down. Well, maybe the film, maybe the TV guys picked up on something there when they went to edit that drama in. But you have to think, how much would that just shake things up and dance? How angry would so many American teams be? I think they'd all be angry.
I know. Talk about broken hearts in the men's. Forget it. Broken hearts in the dance. And it would probably be for the team I don't want to be brokenhearted instead of the one I do want to be brokenhearted. It would even be
brokenhearted for the team that thinks that they're number one. Jonathan, we need this to happen. Look, this 4 years, it's not been the best. I think this year the comebacks have helped things. We've had some rough years. I think that this could rejuvenate everyone. It could excite and let the claws come out. Jonathan, we need this to happen, okay? People just can't be getting along in their training environments. We need some bitterness. We need death stares.
I'm surprised the reason I'm surprised if Meryl did it in the season itself is because I think she'd almost need the knowledge to know she could win it. Don't you think?
She knows that. Who cares? Even if they don't win it, they come back, and even if they medal, it keeps their brand alive for 4 more years.
It
keeps the brand alive. You stir the pot, you keep going, you get the endorsements, and you keep yourself relevant. And I think that this
is it another blow to the French?
It could be another blow to the French. I don't know if Meryl and Charlie could beat Tessa and Scott, but I do think that they could potentially take the French just because they're so darn consistent. And this would give Meryl an opportunity to keep Charlie off of Twitter, which I think she would probably secretly really like as Charlie gets more and more and more political.
He's developing as a social presence there with some non-skating related comments.
It's funny because an agent told me, it was funny that Meryl and Charlie were known for saying nothing in their interviews because Charlie's very opinionated. And we now know that.
Thank you, Twitter.
Yeah. So I think Charlie needs to either be at the Olympics as a commentator for the dance event, or
Yeah.
Or we need to watch them compete. And I would like to see a good comeback just to really
stir things up.
Yeah. Let's stir the pot. Sorry, I just got a text about Sandusky's son. You know what? Jerry Sandusky's son has now been arrested. It's like, the world is just crumbling. We need some comebacks. But let's talk about a hot mess. Let's talk about these Russian ladies. What's going on at the Universiade? Jonathan Byer, is this where we put our girls out to pasture?
Let's talk about this, actually, because I was like, what is this exactly? You had to have been born between 89 and 99. Mm-hmm. Obviously, I just missed the mark. Okay. So, and you have to be enrolled in a university program or have just graduated. Mm-hmm. So why, then, do I see no North American skaters? A lot of Asian skaters, a lot of European skaters, no North American skaters. Is that by design in the rules, or is that just how this has happened?
I mean, I think that we would only have, like, Angela Wang to send and Max. You know what? We'd have people to send. I don't know why we're not. That's a good question. We waste a lot of money sending people to Senior Bs, so I don't know why we're not.
Max didn't, want to retire the Lion King just yet. This would have been a great opportunity, go to Kazakhstan like you've always dreamed about. And the arena there, a lot of people were gunning for them to have the Olympics, right? And except Beijing got it. But that arena looked exquisite. And then, I don't know if you saw in the Lutz corner, there was like a Sunset Boulevard, like winding staircase out of nowhere. Go back and watch some. Force yourself to go back and watch some of the programs. There's like this like windy, sparkling white staircase, like waiting for a big like cotillion entrance, like in the Lutz corner. It was waiting for you, Dave, and you never showed up.
It was waiting for Meryl and Charlie to waltz down in their comeback and let everyone know that this is going to...
Their Kazakhstan announcement tour, yeah, okay.
It was waiting for Johnny Weir to walk down in his mink. That is what was happening.
It needed it. But, who do you want to talk about first? There are several to discuss at this event.
So I want to talk. Let's start with Radianova, because back in the day, Jenny used to be very on about arm technique, and we would get a lot of comments calling us Barbie and the F word, and they would be saying that we were anti-Russian, and well, she said that the arm technique would eventually fail most of the Russian junior ladies who look wispy with these triples and yada yada. As we see, this is what has happened. And you look at Radianova, she's someone who uses her arms so much to get into the jumps. Her center of gravity is off. It's obviously changed, and her technique just looks like it's failing her. I don't see her coming back to really be in the mix next season, do you?
Well, Radianova, I think this was her bye. Yeah, I think. And here's the thing, she had that potential as a youth, but you always saw this shoulder situation that, and it didn't seem to be addressed by this particular coach. I know Tarasova is all about this coach and supporting the rink and all this sort of stuff, but I don't see the quality of skating coming out of it as I do some of the other rinks there. You can still see it. It's just so obvious with her shoulders and she botched the last three landings. I wondered, because maybe Grand Prix final was just an unfortunate situation in their eye. So was Russia well, let's see how she does here compared to Maria at Europeans. And I still think Maria earned her spot at Worlds. Now, they still have not announced their World team. I think it's still clear, this was another nail in the coffin, kind of.
Unfortunately, she's such a great personality, but at a certain point, we're going to get into my issues with the current iteration of ladies skating as we move forward. But to me, it's been sloppy. They've tried to polish it up a bit with a choreographer. A choreographer is going to give you a program. They can't fix all the nuances of your skating that require detail work every single day, working on those shoulders, the lines, the stretch, the technique. It's every single day with Radianova. And unfortunately, I don't see this really improving. I think that she has a champion's medal, or at least, fight in her. But to me,
and she has quality. She sells. She's a beautiful girl. You can tell she gives, but she's just been misguided, in my opinion. She's just been totally misinformed about how to do these things.
And when you see the juniors coming up and how much talent there is, as well as the girls at Worlds, the writing is on the wall. So it's interesting.
And now a lot of them, you watch their arms and they don't go up. You know what I mean? Her whole thing is so like a chicken or something, and I don't understand how she's even been able to like make that work for her. It's impressive, but it doesn't seem sustainable. No. Clearly, it's not. Yeah.
But what did you think about? Tuktamisheva always had much better technique. She's someone that did jump from her legs. Is this an injury? Has she just lost the will to skate, the will to compete? I mean, does she know that it's essentially over? I mean, to me, her performance had a very strange vibe. Obviously, the ominous music and the black costume didn't do her any favors here, but...
Okay, fine. If you're going to skate to Carmina, fine. A bit of a cliche, but it's good, powerful, exciting music. I don't know why they felt the need to or they added in the laugh from like Disney's Haunted Mansion in the middle. It's like, wah-ha-ha. And I was like, that's definitely not in the score. But her triple toe was like, it was exquisite in that short. It was like big and arc. I mean, obviously it's not the most difficult, but it looked like kind of old school her, and I was like, oh, this looks good, because she had such pretty jumps. She really did. But I don't understand, and she seems rotating, and she just like tilts way the hell over, and just all of a sudden she's down. And her face, you see it, like she sells half the time, and then the other time she's like, can I just stop? Like she couldn't even like bow for like 30 seconds. You almost saw when she put her hand on her face after the long. It was weird, like doing it to Grieg, and then all of a sudden there was like weird esoteric add-ons. Don't add, Elizabeth, to just skate, please. But she put the hand on there, and you saw her subtext be, what am I even doing? Yeah. You almost saw it. Mishin was not with her. Then Mishin was quoted in the paper as being like, what did he say exactly? We should all have respect for her. We should all give her respect. But I was like, that sounds defensive and like, bye. Like, in a way, it seemed like we should respect her and we should let her go. No.
So I often wonder, she took meldonium during 2015 when it was legal. She was absolutely allowed to do this, not saying she did anything wrong. She played by the rules. You wonder, the one thing they said about meldonium is recovery. But did she perhaps run her body into the ground then by doing 15 competitions? And even though she got through that season, is it a situation where your body only has so much wear and tear it's going to take? Did she completely burn herself out, the joints, the back, whatever the problem is? Because I imagine she has physical pain all over her body, the way all athletes do. But you kind of wonder at this point what's going on. It doesn't, to me, look like she's going to miraculously be able to contend even if she skates well.
There's a reason your body is not, without the assistance of something else, supposed to sustain that many competitions with that kind of technical content all of a sudden out of the blue. The triple axels. And she was still doing goofy ones. Mm-hmm. Like, even in Europeans and Worlds, I was like, where do you find these? Like, I don't understand how her body couldn't be broken.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's too sad. I don't know why the writing is on the wall now 2 seasons in a row. Mm. So it seems pretty obvious.
It's interesting because you look at her trajectory, and it started better at Skate Canada, but then the short to the long to the rest of the season. And this, we've tried to change the program. It's not to me, it's just the emotion and the life is what's gone from her in the middle, to where the programs, and she had this spark about her, and even though she's never been the most aesthetically attractive skater, she had some verve about her that's really been missing the last 2 years, and the heavy music.
Yeah.
It's sad because you could tell that this is someone who there's a fighter in her, there's an athlete, there's an interesting personality. I don't think it does the sport any favors to have her be on top 1 year and then a relic every other year afterwards.
Sticking around. Yeah, it's a problem. Mm-hmm. Gosh, she was so unstoppable that year. It was pretty insane.
Yeah.
But not natural, perhaps.
Yeah. So, Jonathan, with all of your musical expertise, of all of the wonderful operatic music that you could pick for Dennis 10, where does a techno version of the Nutcracker appear in your wish list?
Dave. Actually, like the Tosca was a nice recording because at least he was using like Domingo and not like Bocelli or some nonsense. But I'll tell you, the Prokofiev started, and I was intrigued. We had only seen him at one Grand Prix, right? So I vaguely remember the Prokofiev from France being a little traumatized. He was in just that black outfit. Here, we had a black outfit. And if you've ever been to Barcelona, there's that famous architect Gaudi, like, and he decorates the whole buildings with these like giant colorful stones. And that is 100% what his costume looked like. And I was like, wait, why is he doing that? And we're going along and it's the Prokofiev and it's great. And then all of a sudden there's a weird techno overlay that does not match at all. I know you get offended by the Shibutani overlap. That's nothing compared to what was happening here. Then in comes the Sugar Plum Fairy by Tchaikovsky, not even like a composer connection. Then all of a sudden we screech again, and now we're just techno Prokofiev. I was like, at least do Prokofiev just into techno Prokofiev. But it seems that his new coaching influence is strong.
He's getting in touch with his Russian roots. Okay, I mean, you've seen some of these.
Right. He had a real Weaver and Poget Michael Jackson quality to it with like this thing.
So, I mean, all right. On a positive,
yes,
his jumps look good. He looks to be in great shape. He looks, Nikolai is known for getting people mentally where they need to go, no matter how he needs to do it. But he looks very together. That said, he only did one quad in the short. He only completed one quad in the long, even though the hand was down. I don't know if he's technically able to compete with these men. Even when he skates, even with the bad music, he has wonderful edge quality. He has wonderful skating skills. He's obviously a talent. And it looks like he's building to try to put the quad Salchow in. He tripled.
Yeah, I wonder that because I was like, you would not put a triple Sal there unless you were attempting to do the quad. But I always wonder, as someone who's not done a quad, I always wonder why you wouldn't want to do the same one again and just tack on, even if it was a double toe.
So I wondered that with this program as well. I mean, I guess he's trying to do 3 quads in the opening. It isn't there yet, and I imagine he would move the triple axels later. Okay. That is kind of where I think this program is going, but it's hard to know because we have... Look, Dennis doesn't compete very often without some sort of ailment or issue or injury, and when he was with Frank, certainly didn't train very often, and even when he was at the rink, there'd be a lot of days with not a lot of jumping or, the issues. That said, I agree with you that he should have gone for the 2 quads here. It looks like he wants to practice. It looks like this was kind of a practice event for him. And ideally, you're trying to build. And I imagined that if you were at 4 continents, he would add more. And then, peak at the World Championships. That said, this is Dennis 10. And of course, he has withdrawn from the 4 continents championships.
Right.
So, at a certain point, his injuries, his boot problems, at what point do you agree with Ty Babylonia and say boot problems? This is a bunch of malarkey, and that Dennis 10 may be self-sabotaging.
If he was doing all of it well, at which point do you quote Tara Lipinski when she was talking about a lovely skater at U.S. Nationals, and you're like, well, you've been sidetracked with your boot problems. The sport has a little bit surpassed you. Do you know what I mean? Like, while we've been waiting for healthy Dennis 10, I don't understand. Now, even 4 continents alone, it's in addition to Nathan, we have Boyan, who's now added the quad loop and already had the flip in the lutz and the toe. And now, who else? Shoma Uno just added the quad loop in addition to the flip and the other ones. It's like, I don't know.
We have Grant Hochstein, who's doing 2 quad toes, and Grant could have a moment at the end of the year. You have the Canadians who can do all of the quads. I mean, there's many people. And that's why I was thinking that if he does a clean short, where is he going to finish if Hanyu's doing 2 quads, if Nathan Chen is doing 2 quads, Javi, then Patrick, who knows what Patrick will attempt at the World Championships. It may have...
He has a pretty Lutz toe, but you're still doing the Lutz toe. I don't... And the axles are still a gamble with him.
Yeah.
You're not quite sure what's happening. And to me, his skating quality is still high, but the difference between the kinds of programs he was putting out with Lori is very different than the kind of program that's being put out now. So
certainly not last year's program. We have to go. We're 2 years ago. I don't know what happened last year in his life, but he had all sorts of problems, and the program reflected that.
I actually like the 14-15 program, my favorite. Some people like the artist, some people like the Olympic year program. I like the Southeast Asian.
So I originally loved the short program, and then the long was an acquired taste to me, and then at the end I came around with you and Emily and was a big fan of it when he was standing and doing the arm movements.
I loved it. Yeah.
I didn't know if he was, directing a plane to come in, but I loved it. Gave him some flags.
Yeah, I wanted to be on that plane. Yeah. Okay.
Love it. This program to me is not it. The Tosca is less offensive than other musical choices he has done. The one thing that I notice is that he's landing very straight up and down on the whole blade sometimes, and he doesn't get the same ride out on the jumps. But the thing is, he's going to need to add the quads in. At a certain point, he's going to need to start competing enough to be able to do that. I still would say he's an Olympic contender for someone who can sneak on the podium. Unfortunately, with Dennis, is that he always seems to be going for a medal, but I'm saying hypothetically, Jonathan, because we know how human nature works.
It's and again, now that you've mentioned that we like to think of people in clusters, he's in a few clusters outside of my main clusters.
Well, he's always been like an outlier cluster, being like, well, if Dennis, shows up. It's now in this situation where, if Dennis is in a lab where there are no allergies and boots are perfect, and
visas are delivered on time, and
he shows up in competitions and is magically trains every day and without problem, without injury, and his feet are healthy and everything. Yes, he could make the necessary improvements, but with all of these problems, day after day after day after day. You have to think that Joshua Ferris looks like a more viable option to make an Olympic run than Dennis Ten at this point because of just these problems again and again and again. But he's got exceptional talent, and he can throw a wrench into many a podium, and he has done, but I don't know if it's going to happen now that, he really needs a setup. At a certain point, you're throwing that Hail Mary pass, but, there's a reason for why what Tom Brady did at the Super Bowl was so remarkable, Jonathan, Okay, so Jonathan, some of us were watching the Super Bowl for Gaga's performance, and Tom Brady was, very down at the first half and came all the way back.
The opera community, whatever about Tom Brady.
It's not over till the fat lady sings, whatever. Right?
Okay. When Lady Gaga jumps off the thing, that's what happens at the end of Tosca. Speaking of Dennis Ten's Tosca. So everyone put the music of Tosca over her jumping over the thing. It's a nice tie-in. It is very Tom Brady.
Lady Gaga's a thief, okay? I'm telling you.
That's right.
They're stealing these great ideas from the opera, and they're using them in popular culture. Okay. And in programs with, the Nutcracker attached to them, apparently. But speaking of things that Morozov done that have perplexed you, so all of a sudden, Caitlin Weaver and Annabelle Morozov were in 2 videos together, but strangely, originally there was a photo on one of I believe it was Caitlin Weaver's Instagram in color, where you could kind of see what rink they were at, because we've seen this rink before in different fluff pieces, and then all of a sudden that photo was deleted, and 2 videos went up at the same time of Annabelle and Caitlin Weaver that were in black and white, and I thought that was really interesting because maybe we wanted to highlight things, but without telling people what's going on or whatnot. They were not in the U.S. Strongly allegedly, they were in Russia going after alleged tryouts. But let's just start with the video. What did you think of Caitlin Weaver and Annabelle skating together side by side?
I thought I had to check and see who posted it. Annabelle posted that, right?
They both had different videos, but they were of them together doing choreography.
Because if I were Miss Weaver, I may not have posted that video of a side-by-side comparison to a young, exceptional talent with deep knees and deep edges. And I like Caitlin Weaver, but I seem to love Annabelle. So I don't know. To compare is to despair. So why would you do the same moves as someone and post it on anything? I wouldn't invite someone who is potentially a better baritone than I, as if such a thing existed. I'm teasing, sort of. But why would I have someone then sing that duet with me? Do you know what I mean? Like, it just doesn't... I was intrigued by her choice. Now, Annabelle, I've only seen in these spurts, but the quality seems very high from what I can tell. Now, she used to have a much longer clip of her doing some ice dancing. Is that the one you meant?
Yeah.
And it was completely...
No, I posted that one on the skating lesson. That it's on the TSL one, but she and Caitlin both posted clips of them skating together in the black and white. But I do agree with you there. I thought, wow, they're doing it, and then I looked at it and I thought, just the style of movement is far more modern, and I think of Weaver's programs as far more lyrical, classical, and I thought, you look outside of your comfort zone, like your favorite Michael Jackson short dance. And I thought that's just very interesting how this is going, but I think obviously they were advertising that Annabelle is deep in the partner search, as well as all of the rumors of which Russian splits, and she is, looking to skate for Russia. So that is interesting, and the partners that have been rumored to be courted that are interesting, there are certain...
I have strong opinions on this, do you?
I have strong opinions. So
I've only heard of two rumors. You probably know more than
I've heard two rumors.
I've heard two rumors.
All right.
Okay.
So we're going to say that these are rumors. We don't have video of the tryouts. We don't know.
No.
The first rumor is that both Sinitsina and Katsalapov are looking for new partners, and then every time there are rumors that they are both looking, then there are photos that show them together that appear on Instagram. But there are rumors of her skating with Nikita. And there's a rumor that she tried out with Igor Bazin, who was at Universiade and skated a free dance that was the exact same music edit that Tessa Virtue and Scott Moyer used.
If it ain't broke, yeah.
It's about 6 years ago. I have to say, I think Annabelle with Igor Bazin would kind of be... Look, they're both pretty. And that's what really is important in ice dance, that they have movement, and they both have personality, and they both have that same kind of quality. Yeah.
I watched the Igor with his current partner, Felicia. And it was as an overall impression from Nationals was the video I watched. It was an overall non-impression, except you saw this guy really sell something who seemed out of place in this world. Had a lot of confidence, had a lot of performance ability, seemed good, seemed held back maybe potentially by the partner, who seemed lovely. She was lovely enough, but he has a little bit of that star quality. And so I thought that would be a really good thing. Nikita is unreliable often and may not be a pleasant partner to be around because we still have never quite understood why they were banished from Marina Land. So things are turbulent. And, we never really understood the initial split, with the Linux. So, and a lot of people were like, no, trust me, this needed to happen. And I wonder if it's because of the kind of personality or something is not...
Well, I think you've seen that neither one has really succeeded. I think they were, like Bobby and Whitney, doomed together and apart, but perfect for each other in a weird way. This, to me, yeah... But if you watch the Russian series 1+1, and I don't know if that means one-on-one, one of our Russian friends can let us know, they show Victoria and Nikita training with Marina, and they kind of allude to the fact that he has an interesting temperament. He runs more hot and cold as a partner. And, shortly after it was filmed, of course, they wound up having issues and leaving there, and they've gone from coach to coach to coach since then. As they think they were with Tchaikovskaya at Nationals, they've been with Volkov. They've not really found a place to really take them to that next level. When you bring someone out of retirement to not a good sign for their future. And they also.
But so I hope the trial went well with Igor because he seems much more.
And I think no one's going to get to the top quickly. A quick fix never works, and I think that we need to, go that route. But thinking of things that need to be fixed, I think the state of ladies skating really concerns me after watching the Russian juniors. And, we were having a discussion, with some friends about, the junior worlds and how different skaters, and of course the Russians are going to do very well. And I have to say that this really concerns me, and it's nothing about their talent, but the way that programs are being rewarded and what sells and what gains points. These programs at Russian Junior Nationals to me look like pinball machines. Do you remember when you played pinball and the ball goes back and forth and just you get points, and it's usually like The Simpsons themed or something in the early 90s and
frenetic. Yeah.
These
he owned Space Jam pinball machine because obviously basketball was my favorite. No,
you liked that female Bugs Bunny girlfriend. I think she had sass to her. Yes,
that would have been much better. Okay. Okay. Here's the thing. My favorite of those three was the one who sort of did that the least, which was Paulina Tsurskaya, right? Yeah. We emphasized the Tsurskaya. Because in addition, she had big jumps, big height. She botched the combo in the short, so she was at a deficit from the get-go. And she used to be, in the past, I remember her from the Junior Grand Prix and stuff like this, very cold. Mm-hmm. It was like a wall, and that seems to be fading a little bit. She's a lot of injuries, it would seem. But she was the one whose style was the most hopeful to me. But it's not the fault of these girls, it's the fault of the choreographers, and they're being rewarded, so why would they change things? You know what I mean? In a world of Marin Honda, I don't have time for these kinds of programs, and it's not about the girl, because I think someone like Paulina can do a more lovely program, but is not being encouraged to do so.
But both, Paulina, Alina, they both train with Medvedeva. I mean, how much time does it take to Buritsa? She has, the boy right now. But these girls are sparring against each other, and they're each throwing arms over their head and doing things, and, they're really spending a lot of time technically, obviously, in what they're doing. But I don't see any refinement. I don't see any artistic point of view, but it doesn't seem to matter, unfortunately. But I wonder...
Well, that's the game, right? I mean, that's the thing. With someone like Max Aaron, when we were you can't just jump, you have to skate too. Mm-hmm. But then the jumps started failing, and he really couldn't skate. Do you know what I mean? But these girls, we would wish some of them would find other choreographies, but they're still winning everything.
Yeah.
I mean, Zagitova, when there's supposed to be a portion of choreography that talks about proportion.
Yeah.
Well, so shouldn't she be losing points then because the proportion is so off? But you can't blame them.
I mean, she's skating to Tom Zakrajcek's Wet Dream, doing the entire set of jumps in the second half.
Because they can actually do it.
No, I mean, it's horrible. But I mean, also, I think with Zagitova, what's really offensive to me is not the fact that she does all the jumps in the second half. It's just the fact that you put her in a tutu that someone else wore, you put on some music that every other Russian has used, and she does a couple ballet arms, but then the rest of the program is really unpolished. She holds a spiral that with a bent leg for 0.5 seconds into a double axel double toe. And you think, what?
Dave, I had to really question. I was was that supposed to be a spiral? Or was that supposed to be a bent move? And I was I'm afraid that was supposed to be a spiral there.
I have that same fear that was supposed. And then there's a movement during her choreography, and she is doing a lunge that's very rushed, and her eyes are pointed down. So she doesn't have the same performance quality of Medvedeva, but she can do a triple Lutz, triple loop in the second half and rotate the loop. Now that's great.
And we've seen her do the triple Lutz, triple loop, triple loop. Yes. I mean, it's that Camp's way, and it seems to work. But I agree with you. And they would be minor fixes if you just paid attention to them every day.
Yeah.
Still, these girls are susceptible. They're clearly susceptible to the information. Like they soak up everything. They clearly are great students and great athletes. So it was like, why would you deny them the chance to be beautiful also?
Yeah.
In their line.
I mean, I hope that Marin Honda is rewarded if she skates well against these ladies. I mean, most of these ladies haven't been challenged with someone who could stand up to them comparably on a technical level, other than another skater performing a very similar way on the Grand Prix. So you hope that some of the Japanese ladies will skate well, and that they will then really judge the components accurately. But so far, what's happened all season long is if someone lands the jumps, they give them the second mark. I don't think that should happen here, but it's been rewarded all season long, and I worry.
So why would they change it? Why would they upset the apple cart if it's working? It's a double-edged sword for them. Like, you know, we could say to them, like, oh, well, you need different choreographers. You need to be more elegant. And they'd be like, why? All the gold medals behind them.
Mm-hmm. But I do wonder how the public will respond if 2 Olympic champions in a row do jumps but appear very sloppy. You know, I think it happened once and there was a big outcry, but I think if it happens twice, you have to start wondering, well, what happened to the sport and why does it look like that? I think it's very strange. I think when you watch them all back to back to back, it's no longer, oh, they can all jump. It's, yeah, they can all jump, but that's 12 minutes of really awkward looking skating that's going on. I do agree that Surskaya has something. She also has the wings on her. The elbows are out. It's why she can get some height, but then she's also very wild in the air. And it's something that Gracie had problems with as well. Her elbows weren't really out as much, but Frank likes them together and down to the right to prevent this phenomenon from happening where your arms are a mess in the air, which then is what...
Gosh, recently Gracie had him up here at the start of that Lutz. I was like, hers aren't even like this. Hers are like...
I mean, you want to control the arms, and this kind of technique that she does on every jump is, leads to some of her problems with, consistency, especially on the takeoffs. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens in Eteri's camp with Medvedeva, Zagitova, and Turskaya. I mean, look, people have been coming and going from Eteri's camp. I mean, she lost Yulia, lost Sakhanovich, lost Pitkaev in the same season, but got, restocked with, a million other talents.
The new ones.
Yeah. New ones. And, there will be a new one next year.
So I'm intrigued if these particular, girls would have risen to the top regardless, or if there is something to what they do there, because it's the consistency that's also remarkable about what's coming out.
I mean, obviously Eteri has a great way of treating young, slender girls to, rotate at a certain point in their life. We haven't seen her have a champion sustain over time, but she knows how to hit someone right at that edge of puberty to get them to, rotate very well and execute jumps. And then you have to think that the competition in the rink is really raising the bar, which is you have to think about the U.S. men and, ice dance and, in the U.S., why, when there is competition, that it keeps...
It gets better, yeah. See, for me, the program that was the most upsetting was Konstantinova, because literally it was the first one I watched when I went and watched them on YouTube.
So you always know that if a Russian girl has gloves and stripes going across the shirt, it's going to be...
We got a mime. We've got a mime.
It's the same way if you see black and white and a little bit of red on an Asian male, it's that Nam Win program coming at you. Right. That Boyangshin is currently doing this season. It's a
dead giveaway. Yeah. Well, and when it started, I literally just threw my arms up. Well, so did she on every jump. But I was just like, oh, I can't.
My question was it a poor Tano variation of when I tried to do my Tano Lutz in adult skating when the arm was like this? Or is she trying for a new variation because you can't just do the two arms or the one? What was that?
It's like a souffle that fell, or something that falls when you take it
We're now
out.
going to be going like this. Soon we're going to be voguing in the air during jumps. I'm not really sure, but it's...
Now, people who watch her live say that there's a really exciting quality to it in a live performance. I definitely couldn't tell that. It seemed pretty bland.
She has strong crossovers. I mean, she gets a lot of speed, I think is probably what they're referring to. I think if you see anyone land 7 jumping passes in person, it's going to be pretty exciting if they have
Right.
some speed. But I didn't look when you're wishing that you're watching Medvedeva's 9/11 tribute program or her jumping rope. I think that that's saying something. I think that there's a real problem with the programs, and this one's not from the same camp. But in general, the fact that the program is such an afterthought, and just look, I mean,
it's just become a bit formulaic, the types of programs there, and that happens because of the choreographers that are in demand, and it happens everywhere. And
it's the judging. I mean, none of these judges are taking a stand, and the 6-0 system. It wouldn't be everyone, but at least when Surya skated, sometimes that Vanessa Riley would go 5-1, and would not care at all about,
But the message was given, and the message was received, and we all were like, oh, right, I guess she doesn't actually use an edge.
Yeah.
But in these points, if you just hand them out, for even executed jumps that are like Radionova, when she even would do her jumps, they were such a thud and so forward, and it would still get full credit as if it was the same as Elizaveta's beautiful Lutz. It's like, how is that the same thing? I don't really understand. It was a tough watch, and it's tough because I think especially Paulina and Alina, they have really special qualities,
outstanding talent. The athletic ability to the hills that you just wish it would be developed into something that could really sustain and mesmerize an audience, because they
evenly matched, a well-rounded skater. Yeah,
because they have that ability. You can tell, as you said, they're obviously receiving information well, and they can.
All you have to do is tell them. Yeah, it seems.
But I think that especially in Russia too, they get these triples at 11. I mean, that's why the arm technique starts to happen, is because they're forcing these jumps to happen at a young age, and they're getting credit, so there's no incentive to change them, and most of them are out of the sport by the time they go through puberty anyway. I mean, it's really what Carlo Fassi feared would happen, only he called it gymnastics on ice, but we're seeing the pinball effect of skating happen again and again and again, and you just think, bring back those figures. So you can...
Don't tell Sonia. She's like, it's not my fault. Yeah, okay.
But as we look ahead, we have the 4 continents coming up this week.
Oh, really quickly, though, I will give a shout-out to Dmitry.
Okay.
Now, this one I don't know. Aliyev?
Yeah.
So, wonderful. Mm-hmm. Big fan. Mm-hmm. I find him artistic. Mm-hmm. I find him sensitive. I find him emotional. I find that there will be a day when we're just watching him and Torgashev and Vasilyev just go to town. Mm-hmm. So, I go to town. I feel really just compete against each other in kind of this new generation of very exciting men's skating. I don't see the epidemic as much in Dmitry's skating as I do in some of the women's. So he's the promising light in junior nationals.
I think because you have Patrick Chan in the men's event, it's forced everyone else to improve their components to compete on that level. And then, Patrick was the first male that really had the skating skills, and then he started to put the jumps together. And then he was winning even when he was making mistakes, and then Hanyu kind of caught up. But then Dennis Ten raised his game. And then now you have Nathan Chen. And then Nathan Chen is now working with Marina to get his second mark improved. And you have Shoma Uno, who can skate and jump. And then you see the Americans who have, some, skating skills, and now they're working on their jumps. And you have Joshua Ferris, who has... both aspects.
Well, I think it would have been very easy, even though he's not an artist, but it would have been easy for Javi to still just be skating back and forth doing jumps, but he can't.
No.
Because the judges are clearly rewarding the skating skills. And that's an interesting point, that there's not that same standard in the ladies sometimes.
Yeah, because the only one who really has exceptional skating skills is Costner on her best day, but she's, a shadow of her former self in some respects until...
How could she not be? Yeah,
unless she pulls it out at the World Championships. But on a day-to-day basis, Medvedeva is giving the judges the most consistent. She has good skating skills, not great programs, but she's reliable and getting rewarded and skates confidently. So those marks keep going up and up and up and up and up. There's not that same standard. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens. But, looking ahead to 4 continents, what are you most excited to see?
I'm just excited to see how all of this unfolds. Dave, normally a 4 continents is Neville Horn. Do you know what I mean?
It's kind of the hungover event of the skating season. Yes.
Yeah, but I mean, this is going to be a showdown in a lot of ways. I'm very anxious to see Karen Chen and Mariah Bell, how they perform now. We all have this nationals hype. Now put it up again, and let's see what happens. I'm very interested. And Mariah, let's see where this all falls. Sad Satoko's not going to be there.
Yeah, obviously she has a hip injury. She's going to be missing this as well as the Asian Games coming up.
And they said, I mean, I love that the Federation was like, well, we need her to get us all the spots for at the Olympics. So Worlds is much more important than these two things. And I was like, wow, that was direct. Thank you. I think for ice stands, again, it might as well be Worlds. Like, this is crazy. The only ones missing are the French, and maybe the Russians. But, like, this will be intense. Let's see what Alexa and Chris have to do. Have you seen or heard any reports? I mean, they must have been monitored in order to...
They were being monitored before nationals. I heard that they were doing well. They didn't have the stamina to put it all in one program, but there was a real push for them. And look, we've seen tremendous talent for them in the past. The thing I will say that concerns me is that Four Continents is a big stage, and even when Michelle Kwan would show up at nationals in the later years and do somewhat watered down programs compared to what she was capable of, she would sometimes at least do a made for TV event earlier in the season. I mean, Alexa and Chris have done nothing since the World Championships in front of a public, and that's not to say that they haven't tried or there haven't been reasons for that, but
no, they literally haven't been able to. Yeah.
So they're going out completely cold, but it could be a great experience. I mean, I'm not expecting a miracle here, so I just think that the U.S. has to let them crash and burn a bit at Four Continents so that they can get everything under control and then compete at the World Championships, because it's going to be a lot of pressure, I imagine, on them.
Well, with all the Canadians and all the Chinese, I mean, it would be tough even if they were in top form, So
interesting is that Megan Duhamel's skate bag has been left at home. Look, we're going to see this versus Sui and Han. I think I'm excited.
But she's very rested because she got to fly business class.
I saw that, yes.
It's like, well, pick your battles. Which do you want?
I love this new era of social media where we can see every single thing that the skaters are doing. But I also saw that Jeremy Abbott was going to New York, and I think we have to think at this point, he is not coming back, Jonathan, right? I mean, he said that he was coming back.
No, I mean, I think he's pretty self-aware, and he was the one that always said, if I don't have two different quads up and running, why would I even bother? And I was like, there may be more perspective in him than maybe the camp around him that perpetuates these possibilities, but I think it's clear he knows.
He seems to be enjoying his life and going back to New York and being artistic and doing, so I was thinking at this point, I mean, come on, we have a million men going. The U.S. is hoping for those 3 spots, but you can't kind of wait to get those 3 spots. You need to be in the mix and training, So it'll be an interesting week. I'm sure we'll be talking a lot, but if you had to put your money on it, what is your MK moment of the week, Jonathan Byer?
Oh, well, a funny little thing called art on ice, because sometimes we talk about when art imitates life, but sometimes art on ice imitates Yuri on ice. And when Stefan Lambiel and Vasilia were skating their artistic duo program to The Seasons and mirroring one another, I was like, stop it. This isn't real. You obviously saw the show and you're doing the coach skating with the skater and blah, blah, blah. So that was a jaw-dropping moment, because I was like, this cannot be. This is literally from the TV show. So that was my MK moment of the week.
Before I give mine, I have a pause. Did you see the clip of the Tanya movie where she was yelling at the people on the ice about the costume?
Dave, no. That probably would have been mine, because I am such a Tanya fan.
I know you and the Schumans. You're really into Tanya. But, they're filming that Tanya movie with Allison Janney, and they're getting all the big names, and then they showed her telling off the judges and on the ice. It was on TMZ. I mean, Margot Robbie. This is becoming a real
Well,
film.
I'm seeing a lot of the clips. Like,
Yeah.
I saw her, like, practicing at a rink, and then they found Tanya, like, smoking a cigarette, reading the newspaper, and the New York Post published it, or some
Yes,
paper.
and she was
Britain.
wearing those pajama pants. I mean, poor Tanya. Yeah.
Well, I was like, whatever. I was like, why would she think the paparazzi's coming around in 2017 to look at her, like, smoke a cigarette and read the newspaper? I was impressed she was reading a newspaper. Bless her. Love her. Loved her. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, so I saw that, but they have her, like, telling off the judges. Obviously, I think this is a bit of an artistic thing. I don't think this actually happened on the ice, but they show her skating over to them and ask, what she needs to do to win, and they tell her to dish that, hot pink dress, and then she was screaming at them. But getting very excited for this movie, Jonathan. We need to go to that premiere,
It'll be this generation's cutting edge. So, it'll be great.
Okay, this is what I was thinking. So when the film premieres, how many skaters, and I was asking them this, I said, do we have to pretend to be offended by the Tanya film? Or can we
Are we allowed to love it?
Are we allowed to love it? Because, any publicity for skating is good at this point. I mean, you see the ratings keep going down.
Right.
So I imagine some skaters
will be above it.
Will be, above it, pretending like it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
I could see Ashley and Adam going to that premiere, couldn't you? I mean,
I would hope so. Any publicity opportunity for them also. Like, why not take it? Why not? And then the thing that will be, like, eye-rolly is, like you're saying, like, because in the real interviews, Tanya did say, like, the USFS officials told her it would look better if she got new costumes. Obviously, it didn't happen, like, in the middle of a rink where she's skating and they're, like, judging her. So, like, those kinds of annoying inaccuracies will be, like, annoying, but that is with every movie. You know what I mean? So they can educate about how it's not like that in the real world, but I would definitely be front and center, and I will be wearing her short program outfit from '94 Olympics. With a foam finger and an open strap. Yeah. Okay.
Yes. Well, moving on, I have to say that my MK moment of the week, it has to be a tie between Joshua Ferris's quads, but Zagita was doing the loop on the end of that combination. I mean, oh my goodness, that was incredible. In the warm-up, I love how this camp just throws on the extra jumps, taking advantage of them.
Just why not? Never to be outdone. Yeah, she proved she could do it.
Talk about the Katarina Witt mind games that are going on with this crew. Gosh.
Yeah. Oh, she was so intimidated. She made up a routine to someone else's music. I'd like her to see go do this, before, like, a competition. Yeah.
Yeah, I enjoy it. But yeah, as always, we have to remind you to hold an edge, intimidate the hell out of your competition, and look sexy. Bye, guys.